Soundstripe.
Welcome back to the Clinical Cookout. This is our third season, and we are going to keep rolling with these hot sauces. If you're new here, hot sauces is what we talk about pertaining to trendy events, maybe events that you've seen being talked about on other social media platforms. We feel that we can bring it here to the Clinical Cookout and hash it out and get the opinion amongst the aunties. So today, aunties, we have the question: who's a worse deadbeat, the mom or the dad? And just to give you a little bit of a context, this is not my question. This was a question that I actually saw on my Facebook feed, and I actually commented, but I kind of commented it as a mental health professional. So I wanted to know the auntie's opinion about that question.
Well, are we talking professional or personal? Because my professional response will be much different than just the first immediate response that I have.
We can talk about our opinion, strictly your personal opinion.
My personal opinion is both of them.
Both of them.
It's both of them. They both the worst. There ain't no one's worse than the other just because it's a mom or the dad. It's both of them. But of course, it's situational depending on the kid. Like always situational. Excuse me.
I will say, I think it's the mom. That's to me. The reason why I think it's the mom, hear me out, is because I've carried babies. And from the moment you find out you're pregnant, you are a mother. The very moment, it's like, oh man, I want to nurture this human being inside of me. I want this human being to grow and just be the best. Like you come up with dreams and everything. Just from hearing that you're pregnant and growing the human being inside of you. And I don't feel like the dads get that. They don't get that emotional attachment right off the bat. So for you to actually grow a human being inside of you, give birth, like spit it out of your vagina, however it gets there, destroy your body for one of these little human beings, and then to decide don't want to be there. I don't see how a mother could do that. I can see how a father could do it. Not that it's right, but I see how they just like, well, I didn't connect. But the mother's connection is immediately, so I don't understand how the attachment doesn't happen.
I will say I agree with, if I had to pick, I agree with Auntie Shug, but not for the same reasons. I agree that to me, a deadbeat mother is worse. Not because of what Auntie Shug said though, because every mother doesn't have maternal instincts. Every mother doesn't bond instantly. That's just it, and that's all. And then given the climate of women being forced to have babies in certain places because they can't have access to abortion if they choose that, now you're talking about resentment. There are women who have children that they never wanted to have. And so now they're resentful. So, but the reason I say mother is because for a child, the bond with the mother is often first. Even in cases where a woman is going to give a baby up for adoption or something, typically the reason why they won't hand the mother the baby is because it may cause a connection. The baby typically goes straight to the adoptive mother, or straight to, if it's a surrogate, they give the baby straight to that woman that's going to be their mother because the baby grows a bond. So I think I'm looking at it from the perspective of children, and I could be biased, but I just feel like for children, it would be harder to live with the question of why my mother didn't want me versus why my father didn't want me.
I think it's hard on kids either way, because there's still a void that one of the people who created me in this world doesn't want me, and they still have to ask them that question. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's any worse for one or the other. There is like the emotional connection, but kids have that with their fathers too, whether it happened when they were first born or developed when they were a toddler or whatever. They still have that. So it's just, from a kid's perspective, it shatters your world when either of your parents that created you don't want to have anything to do with you.
I agree, but because of what Shug said, I just feel like a lot of people societally, a lot of people cannot wrap their minds around their mother not wanting them.
And then you always hear people say mama's baby, daddy's maybe. And like, cause it's kind of like societally, people are like, okay, you had the baby, you bonded with the baby from the very first time you felt the kick or whatever. A lot of people do. Some people don't. But the dad is it just seems like the dads they don't now you have a dad that wants to be there, and then you have the dad that's like, I mean, I could bounce, because that's why they always say mama's baby, daddy's maybe. For sure, you are going to take care of your child most times. Dads, they can be out and nobody looks at them and says boo to them sometimes.
Which is wrong. Let's just make
Yeah.
that very clear. It is dead wrong. Fathers are just as responsible, but it's so many things that can go into this dynamic, because you have fathers who are like, well, women get to choose if they want that baby. But if she decides to keep it, I automatically got to be a father. What if I didn't want that baby? So it's so much to this conversation, but for most people, I would say they're probably going to go with the mother, and not because of any misogynistic BS, but because of how we view mothers, how society views mothers.
But when you have that one supportive parent who's like bringing it home, then, it doesn't matter whether it's the mom or the dad. Like, you have that parent, you have that support, that structure, that system that you need.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one is gone. It's just as bad that one's gone, whether it's the mom or the dad. I just really don't see that there's a huge difference because of the gender or the role, because a dad can play a nurturing role as well, and a mom can play the distant, so what, I'm here but whatever type of role as well. So
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think it matters the gender of the gender of the child? Like, do you think most daughters would struggle more if their mother wasn't there, and boys struggle more when their father's not there?
Oh, good question.
that is, but y'all know gender is getting a little more fluid these days.
No,
So
we talking about
I don't
biological
know.
gender.
Well, I'm talking about children who identify as cisgender woman, cisgender girl, cisgender boy. That's how they identify. Do you think it would be difficult based on that? Like a girl needing her mother, a boy needing his father. We know we need both parents, but does it make a difference if you're a girl who had a deadbeat mom versus a boy who had a deadbeat mom, or vice versa?
It depends, because y'all know kids are really observant, and they learn from the things that they see and they hear or whatever. So it depends on that kid's perception of what a mother is or a father is. So if you have a little girl who's never heard of what a nurturing mother should be like, and they've only had that experience of this negative interaction with their mom, they're not going to want to be like their mom. So it might not hit them as hard if their mom's not there. But if you have another little girl who goes to school and like watches the other little girls play with their mom and they dress alike, and, see those things, they're going to be like, damn, why isn't my mom here? So it just, yeah, it depends
Yeah, it's a lot of
from my
factors.
perspective.
There's a lot of, I do agree that both of them is the obvious ideal answer, especially if we do go into professionally how we would respond. But opinion wise, it's just a mother to me.
I know a little girl personally who has her father, and he's been there, and he's a great dad to her. And she's had a stepmother since she was born, but she longs for her biological mother. And obviously they're insecurely attached, but she still longs for her biological mother. So I think that no matter what, that the person that can hear your heartbeat from the inside out, like, I think that's who they need the most. I think they need fathers too, but I think that all babies, like, they need that mother figure to attach to. Um just for attachment purposes. I just always feel like when you first come out of, like, when mine came out of my body, they looked for me. Even day 2, day 3, you know what I mean? Like, I knew what to do innately. I just automatically knew what to do for them. Where sometimes men, you have to teach them. You have to be like, okay, well, put her on your chest, give her skin to skin, hold her like this, hold her like that. I just think what comes natural for us doesn't always come natural for the man. It doesn't mean it can't. It just means that it's just not. But there's a lot of biological things that happen during childbirth that cannot be duplicated by men.
Now, Keish, I still do want to know your professional response.
Me too.
Well, my personal response, I'm on Amber's side. Both of them raggedy. Both of them.
Yeah.
But I do think that there are some aspects of this where there is a biological innate type of thing that women give off that men necessarily don't do. Um, so I do think in that sense there's some hierarchy when it comes to parenting, that mothers are put to this higher standard of being the sole provider, sole nurturer, sole protector, that men tend to be pushed off on that responsibility, in my personal opinion. I
Yeah,
still
it's
think
true.
they both I still think they both raggedy, but I can see how women are placed in a more judgmental position if they didn't, wasn't with their child. So,
Mhm.
but professionally, I responded and said, when the word deadbeat in quotes is used, I often think of the trauma, relational, societal influences, and even cultural value system that these parents have chosen or made to follow, because people don't engage in behaviors in isolation. While deadbeat is a loaded term and can be assigned to either parent, I have to say, in my clinical experience, many good parents don't even know how parenting works because it's a learning process. So, on the surface level, both can be, but there's a deeper issue as to why someone is a deadbeat. There's a lot
Yeah.
of generalization, but parenting is definitely individualized. So, I'm curious how people define deadbeat and if they think deadbeat parents can change from the right intervention.
Ooh.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
that goes with there's always a why.
Yep.
So
So I thought
that
about
may be what we need to look more into, is that what is the reason why?
Yep.
Yeah. And
Yep.
do they even know they're a deadbeat? I know that's like a stupid question, but some people may not even be aware that what they're doing is affecting their kids because they're so wrapped up in sometimes drugs, but their own life and just not really thinking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Defining deadbeat would be very important because that's subjective.
that's why I asked the question. And
Yeah.
of course, the person responded and said, well, that's what we're trying to figure out. He said, that was a great question. Like, I agree. And I was like, we can all run to the internet and say, this person's a deadbeat and that person's a deadbeat. But why is this person a deadbeat? Nobody ever asked that question. And there are influences that happen to this person. How do I know something didn't happen to this person? How do I know this person don't have an addiction? We know that certain things are hereditary, like alcoholism. We know that. What if
Mhm.
this person is an alcoholic and they
Yeah.
can't get their stuff together because they seen their family not get their stuff together? What if a father is not involved because he didn't see his father be involved? And trust and believe, I've worked with people that's like that. They do not get involved because they daddy wasn't involved and they just did the going to work and that was it. Mom took care of everything else. It
Mhm.
was So I feel like there's a lot of pieces that was a part of that question, and saying deadbeat is a loaded term.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
that's why I use that, because I know that there's always a story behind somebody's behaviors.
I agree. And we sometimes don't allow grace for the story behind that behavior. And we also look at it like if a parent is present, they can't possibly be a deadbeat, which I don't think is true. You can be a deadbeat and be right there.
Yep.
That's why I
Well,
said,
we did all talk about our personal opinions on this. So let's go ahead and shift into some more personal things in our All About the Aunties episode. Y'all ready to learn about the aunties?
Mhm.
Yeah, let's get it.
Soundstripe.
Well, ladies, what got you all into the field of mental health to even begin with? Like, why? Why did you choose this field?
Um, I chose this field because I want to know why people do the things that they do. I've always wanted to know that because I've had a lot of things happen to me. I've done a lot of things to people. Um, just I've always wanted to heal my trauma. And once I started dabbling a little bit in counseling, I wanted to go deeper and deeper and deeper into psychology because I wanted to know why. for me, there's always a why. And even as a young girl, I always felt like I thought different. Like I was like, everybody was kind of like following the crowd, and I always had like but why? Like I don't want to do that, and why? Why am I anxious, or why do I feel like I don't like people, or why am I angry? So going into mental health helped me figure out myself, helped me heal from a lot of my trauma, and I want to spread all of that I went through with every person that I see, every youth that I see. I've not given up on adults, but the youth, like those teenagers that are underserved and they don't know no better, and people call them ghetto, or you know what I mean? I wanted to be the one to say, no, they're not. This is why. Because I had that happen to me where people just saw a bad seed and they never said, well, what happened to her? Nope, not one adult I can think of said, what happened to you? It was always, this is what you are, and this is why you're like that. So,
Mm-hmm.
So for me, the mental health field was not my first choice to go into. I wanted to go into the field of medicine in some capacity, surgery, neurosurgery, but the change for me happened one when I realized the medical field wasn't the route for me. It was too much going on there. And two, my uncle who was diagnosed with a mental health disorder said something to me when I was a teenager that just stuck with me. He said, I'm not going to therapy because nobody looks like me. If I can't find a therapist who looks like me, I'm not going. So that stuck with me because I was like, this is an area where not only are we underrepresented and underserved as clients, but we are underrepresented in the actual field. And it was just something that mattered to me for people to be able to see somebody that looks like them, because even though you can relate to therapists who don't look like you, it's a different vibe when you see you, when you feel like this person is a mirror reflected back at me. I just feel like for our people, that's something that we need to know we got us if nobody else has us. And then once I got into the field, I knew it was the right choice to make, but I felt like another big thing keeping me here is wanting to dismantle where the system doesn't work for us, where the mental health system just does not align with us because it wasn't built for us. So, as far as social justice advocacy, this is a really good field for me to be in to be able to do that.
I would say I entered the field as wanting to be a social worker first because at the time, I grew up in a single parent family home, and my mom, shout out to Brenda, was struggled a lot. And along came this family, and I knew this family because I ran track, and this family stepped in and they basically took on the role of being surrogate parents, and they pretty much got me to where I am today. And I knew that the way that they came in my life to help me, that I wanted to do that for someone else, and what it looked like to stand in when somebody couldn't be there. So I wanted to do that. Now, going into the psychology field, something personally happened to me that I didn't recognize what was going on with me. Like basically they were trauma symptoms, but I mean I had never heard about trauma before, so how was I supposed to verbalize it? And then I found out that that's what it was, and so I thought to myself, I wonder if other black women are going through the same thing. And if they find the words, or if they knew how to find the words, they'd be able to label it. And so I went back to get my doctorate for that exact reason. And today I sit here as a licensed social worker and working on to be a licensed clinical psychologist. That's the story.
Well, mine isn't as deep as y'all's, but so my first choice was not psychology either. It was actually I wanted to be a plastic surgeon. Um,
I wish you had did
so I do, because then we could all be. But anyway, so I wanted to do that first. But then I could not pass chemistry for the life of me, and I gave up. And that was completely out of the ordinary for me to just give up like that, because I was kind of like the opposite of Shug. When I was younger, everybody thought I was perfect. Like I didn't struggle with anything from other people's perspective. and like I was great at this and this, and nobody ever took the time to say like, are you okay? Like, are you actually okay, or do you just look okay? And then on top of that, my brother started having some problems. My grandma got Alzheimer's, and I just could not for the life of me understand how somebody can be perfect one week, like talking to you, know who you are, and then the next week, they're forgetting things. The next week after that, they can't even recognize your face. I'm like, what is going on? And when I realized that was like brain functioning, I'm like, oh, I want to know more about that. And that really is what pushed me into the field. And then getting in this field, I mean, I've learned so much about myself and like my childhood, and how things that looked perfect were absolutely not perfect. And then I've learned things about other people around me, and it's just an amazing feeling. And like it helps you look at the world through a different lens. So of course I pursued it to the fullest. I got my doctorate, which is the highest I could possibly go. So that was my story for it.
I couldn't pass chemistry either. That's what took me
No,
out too.
I had an F. They put me on probation. I was like, I'm not going to medical school. Like, this ain't happening.
I
This
tried
ain't for me.
I tried to pass organic chemistry 3 times. That third time I was like, yeah, this probably not for me.
Mm-mm. Nope.
It's I mean, you walking in your purpose now. Like that's one. So one thing I really keep in mind is that this is for me. It's always been for me. As a kid, I had people calling me and they wanted to know they wanted to know like advice from me, and I was like, we're kids, and I'm giving out advice. I've had adults talk to me about stuff that I'm like, why me? You know what I mean? Like, why would they choose to talk to me about this? And so I know that God gave me a purpose. That's why I don't sweat it. That's why I just be like, one day we'll get where we got to go. Because when you in your purpose, can't nobody tell you nothing else. Can't nobody do nothing or take nothing away from you. So we was already born with this purpose. All we had to do was just get the credentials for it. Because if God already give you a purpose, you're just waiting on human credentials. And that's where I'm at with that. That's why I'm like, there's nothing that can stop me. If there's a test, I'm gonna pass it because it's already destined inside of me. And I didn't know that for a long time, that, I was walking around blind, just thinking like what people told me: you're bad, you're not good, you're on the PENS program, you don't go to school, you don't do this, you want to smoke, you want to do that. And like, you know what? My purpose, no matter how bad people thought I was, my purpose is still here. I've been in classes with people who were the valedictorian, and look at me. Because guess what? When it's for you, can't nobody take it away from you, and it's gonna be given to you. You gotta go get it. So I think that that's kind of how it happened to all of us.
Mm-hmm.
No, I agree with that.
That's why you couldn't pass chemistry, because it
I
wasn't.
agree. Well, when I couldn't pass chemistry, I did start working with kids. It was just like an after school program. And then I freaking fell in love with kids at that time. And I
Yeah,
still am. I love kids.
you
And
did.
it's
And
just
when
like,
I met Keisha, she was never gonna work with a kid.
Never. Now look at me over here, hugged in a motherfucker.
they're so
Yeah,
they're just amazing little people. Like, who doesn't like them? I don't understand.
Well, you already know I don't work with the children's, but yeah, I didn't pass chemistry for a reason. Funny thing, I thought I was gonna be a writer after that because I minored in creative writing. And anybody who know me know I loved writing poetry. I got a whole manuscript that I wrote that I never got published.
and that I read and still waiting on.
Yeah, I wrote it and never published. It's literally sitting in this office right now. And then everybody thought I was gonna go back to school to be a lawyer. They was like, "You like to argue and debate too much. You're gonna be somebody's lawyer." And I was like, that ain't where I want to be, because for me, if I would have been a lawyer, listen, I wouldn't have been no good if the person was guilty. Oh, I can't defend you. Mm-mm, mm-mm. So, so it's just like every purpose that somebody else had for me, or even the one that I had for myself, clearly wasn't the purpose. Because now, no matter how difficult this gets, I feel like this is where I'm supposed to be.
Yes, sir.
I think we all there now, though. Like, this is where we're supposed to be. We're
Mhm.
supposed to be here doing this. We're supposed to be sharing this with other people because we want the world to see like what happens when you take care of your mental health, or at least when you understand it. Even if you don't feel like you can do something about it now, if, like Auntie Keith said, if you can at least label it, like find the words to use for it, then that's like your first step. So
Mhm.
like I hate when people just like they think therapy is like I can't go unless I go all out. Like I go and tell everything and I don't want to do that with a person. So I'm just not going to go at all. But they don't realize it's like small steps. My favorite part about therapy or even evaluations is just meeting the person and getting to know them and them getting to know me and just like building that rapport. That's the best part about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep,
Yeah.
I agree. I get
My
excited
favorite
meeting new clients.
my favorite
Hmm.
thing is I would beat the snot out of a kid and connect for it. Except this one little boy, I don't understand it. But like they think like you I guess y'all do be beating them kids. With no remorse, okay? I don't care. But a lot of parents think I'm gonna take my kids to therapy and y'all gonna have me in jail because I whooped them or something like this. And I'm like, my job is to connect with your kid. That's my only job is to connect with them so that they can have a safe place. I like being somebody's safe place. I like teaching you how to be their safe place. So I just love it. I love all of it.
Yeah.
I agree. One of the things I tell a lot of people who are afraid to go to therapy is my job is not to point out your flaws, talk about your issues, make you feel less than. My job is to literally help you understand yourself and manage. That's what my job is, to help you figure yourself out. Self-discovery is a thing, to help you become more authentic and to help you learn how to manage things when you can. That's it.
Yeah. I have always thought that because I'm a social worker and come from a macro level, I'm like, okay, how does this work in psychology? Psychology is a very sometimes individual, more individual than social work. And so I was like, I had to figure out that as I went through this process, that it's still okay to be a community psychologist. And that sometimes instead of giving a voice to the voiceless, I'd rather pass the mic. So that way I can get out there and advocate on the macro level, like law wise, and understanding how the system affects you. But I can also pass you the mic and let you know that your voice is equally as important. Um, and that is something that I'm starting to transition into, being more aware of how the system works and what I can do at on the psychology level to get my people where they need to be.
Mm.
Yeah. Actually, I think that would be good for us to talk about, like individually, what are some of our professional goals moving forward, or at least our goals for the community as we close out today.
Talk about it now.
No,
That's what
later.
you're closing out, Suge.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
Okay,
Talk about
I'll start. I'll
I
start
was
it
stuck
right
on instead of being a voice for the voiceless, I want the mic. I was like,
Pass the mic. Yes,
now.
drop.
Okay.
So for me, getting my doctorate was not the end. It's actually the beginning for me. I still have this desire to like keep doing more, do as much as I can for our community. So one of my goals, like moving forward, I have talked to Auntie Sugar about this a little bit, but I do want to start a nonprofit in the area that I'm in because we really have no services for anything. And one of my goals is for it to be this is kind of like my dissertation program proposal, but just a slightly different. But I do want to have like a one stop shop where you can get all the mental health services you need in the community. And you don't have to worry about, oh, well, I need to go get referred out to go to this person or referred out to this person. You can get everything there. That's something that's going to take a long time to get together. But when I start to get this urge, like, I need to do more, I'm not doing enough, I need to do more, that's something that I've started to like put myself into. It's just like writing down ideas and kind of getting the planning started for that. And then of course community service. I want to do more of that too.
so I do a lot of community service. Actually, I love community service, especially when it's in service of Black people or underserved Black people and the youth. So in 2011, I had a vision, and it was called that I would open up a center, and it was called the Israel Center for Youth, and it's like a youth center for African Americans, but with a spin, right? So we're gonna do a lot of counseling and therapy. So my goal is aligned with Auntie Amber. As we actually talked about this the other day, is I want to be a one-stop shop. I want all of that. I want to do summer camps. I want to really treat our community, and I want to do it on a macro level. So, I mean, it's still obviously going to be micro because it's just little old me and probably little old him. But will be affecting, and I'll be affecting the masses. Because I mean, it's kind of like an each one teach one. Like I feel like if I just help one person, I'm good. And I know that there will be more, because when you like reach the youth, I mean, that's it. You shaping the next generation. So with that being said, I believe the children are our future. Okay, I'm done.
Why must you always do this? Like, I'll keep that in. Please don't take it out. Okay, okay. No, but seriously, yeah, community service is a big deal for me. But for me, there's always, I think the biggest thing for me, the biggest quality I consider myself to have that I just cannot let go of is being an advocate and advocating for those voices that are marginalized. So with that, for me, I've had this dream for the longest time of reaching those people who I can help them unlearn certain things, help them find their own voice. Like Auntie Keith said, pass that mic along so that they can start. Like if I can be the person that helps somebody else make the changes, get to the point where they can make changes, I just feel like that's something that I am passionate about. Dismantling systems, dismantling negative mindsets and maladaptive mindsets, dismantling things that aren't for our community, and specifically doing it from a place of not only helping people with their mental health, but from teaching, which teaching is not something I ever wanted to do. I didn't. But now I have a love of helping other people learn what they need so that we can all come together and change what needs to be changed. And that's why when you said Auntie Suge, just little old me, just little old Amber, we not little. Nothing about what we are, what we bring to this world is little. Because if you do have the capacity and the power to change one person, you big out here. You a boss out here. If you can change the mind of one person, it's nothing little about that. So I want to reach people who can then affect the change that needs to happen for this to be better, specifically for our people.
Um, you know, goals for the future or for my community. I have going into my birthday this year, I have talked about reinvestment, and that means reinvesting in my community as well. And sometimes it's not always in the way that I thought it would be. I've been in the community doing things with churches or partnering with churches, but now I look at reinvestment as in, okay, what if somebody needs $50? That's reinvesting. Last night I picked somebody up from the gas station. Didn't know this man. He had a 3-year-old toddler with him, and they was trying to get gas in the gas can because their car had broke down. I just took him onto their car. I asked him who he was, asked him if his daughter was with him, and he said yeah. And I just picked him up and took him. And sometimes reinvestment means we got to do things that maybe the average person or another person wouldn't do. And so I'm focused on what does reinvestment look like for my community. It's not always me going to them saying, hey, I got this program, you need to be a part of it. Sometimes it's not going to look like that. And I have to be open enough to understand that. So the goals for me in the future is, like I said, passing the mic. I don't always have to be the person in the front. Just because I got the degree don't mean I need to be in front. Sometimes I can lead from the back. And so I think it's just important for me to just put those people in front who want to be there and give them the mic so that people can hear their voices and not me tell their story, and also reinvest in variety of ways that can fit that actual individual. So that's what I plan to do. And that's my goal moving forward right now.
I'm chomping at the bit because you did reinvest in me. Talk about that.
Really?
You asked me, could
you,
you say
you,
it?
you want me to talk about that?
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
I didn't. Okay. So as you may not know, I am a published author. Been a published author since 2015. And I've kind of gotten away from writing, but I plan to at least put another book out, an academic book at some point. But I thought in the meantime, in between time, that even though I'm not writing, what if there's other writers in the community who want to be sponsored or who want to give back to their community? And I took it upon myself to invest in one of the aunties on the Clinical Cookout, who is also going to be a published author as well, hopefully in the next 30 to 45 days. And so I took it upon myself to offer to invest in Auntie Shook's book with her and her son, because they're doing something great for the community and for young Black boys when it comes to social anxiety. I don't want to take too much of any of her time in her marketing of this product, but I wanted to say that the investment starts with my people first. And so she is a living example of me investing in my sisters, because I consider you a sister, not a friend. She's
Yes.
an example of me investing in my sisters and investing in my community. So yeah.
Well, so I didn't want you to toot my horn, but I did want to talk about how you take reinvestment very seriously.
I do.
Because I thought that, like, when I seen it on your post and you was like, "Can I say that?" I was like, "Yeah," because you know what I mean. I just want to show that you as an auntie do what you say you're gonna do. Like, nobody's up here doing lip service. Everybody is out here getting it. So,
Soundstripe.